This video will be covering how to use USBTraq. This program can be downloaded from our website under the Downloads section. When you open the program, the first thing you'll notice is the version number down in the bottom left, and then this little button, Refresh Serial Port List. So go ahead and click on that. I currently have one anchor connected, anchor 1, and I have one tag connected. And you'll notice if I click this drop down, it shows me two COM ports. When you actually select a COM port and hit connect, you'll notice down here in the bottom it tells you whether you're connected to the anchor or to the tag. Depending on which device you connect to, different options will be grayed out or available. The first thing to notice on this tracking tab is the tag ID. By adjusting the tag ID, you tell it which one you want to see data for. So if I select 0, it's now showing me the position in millimeters for tag 0. Notice that tags and anchors are labeled such as anchor 1, anchor 2, anchor 3, tag 1, tag 2, tag 3. But it's different from the actual device ID. So it may be labeled tag 1, but the device ID is actually 0. It's always one less than the label ID. Same with anchors. So anchor 1 has a device ID as device 0. So you can see how the positions are updating. The tag is actually sitting at rest. So normally, you can see these values are not changing much. The quaternion values, notice how rock solid they are. They don't drift. Another thing to note about quaternion values is they can be converted to Euler values very easily using an Excel spreadsheet as an example that's also in the Downloads section. The next tab, Settings, has several features that can be customized. The first one is a number of anchors. I currently have set to 4, which you'll set based on your current number of anchors, the number of tags, and the transmission power. Selecting 0 will give you automatic gain control and adjust as needed. But in some situations, especially if the anchors are behind a wall, you may have to manually adjust this in order to get good reception. This next feature is called calibration, and the way you'll work that is you'll read different values. Instructions are provided on a separate Excel spreadsheet by requesting that through support. But basically, once you get that spreadsheet, you'll select tag or anchor and enter all the slopes and intercepts from that spreadsheet into this, and then write to device. Another thing I should cover quick is a Read from Device button. When you hit that, it's going to give you the firmware version loaded on the device you're connected to and all the current settings. Up here in the top right-hand control is Data Burst Control. So you can enable and disable different types of data to be output from the tag or anchor. And just by scrolling through here, you'll see what each one of these does. And you'll notice that some of these are not available for the anchor, but when you connect to the tag, they'll become available. So like, for example, number 6 is anchor positions. So if you were to click over here on the Terminal tab, this is all the data that the anchor 1 is currently sending. It's scrolling by extremely fast, but if you click on this button down here, it'll actually stop it so that you have enough time to read each one, and then you could turn it back on, and you can actually change the update to something slower, which I just now changed it to once per second, so now you can see how slow everything is going. Going back to the Settings tab, so you basically enable each one of these commands or disable each one of these commands, and then you'll now see that command displayed. So right now I've got 1, 2, 3, 6, and 9 being output. Going back to the Settings tab, you also have sleep setting. So if you need the tag to actually sleep and save battery power, this is a feature for you. So clicking down here, you could select RF sleep and then select the period you want to sleep for. So if you put in 1,000 milliseconds and write to device, that's going to cause the tag to sleep for a second in between updates. Another tab is called Anchor Positions. So if I hit Read from Device, it's actually going to read all the automatically calculated positions for each anchor. And notice down here, minimum offset. That offset is the minimum distance from the ground to the lowest anchor you have set up. And then once you change this offset, you have to hit Write to Device to save changes. So up here in the top right hand corner, you have a bunch of different auto calculation modes. The first one is which is normally used, which is anchors 1, 2, and 3 above anchor 4. And then, well, they're labeled anchor 1, 2, and 3. They actually have device IDs anchor 0 through 2. And then anchor 3 is really device 3, which is labeled anchor 4. But basically, anchor 1, 2, and 3 are at a higher level, and anchor 4 is below. Or you could choose with anchor 4 being above and anchor 1, 2, and 3 below. Or you could choose this one where it'll calculate X and Y automatically, but then you can manually enter the Z positions. And then the third or fourth one, you just manually enter all the X, Y, and Z positions. Remember to hit Write to Device after each one. Going back to this Terminal tab, which I already showed you before, is now updating it once per second. I'll change that again. Now it's updating every 10 milliseconds. Keep in mind that this update speed does not affect the actual update calculations being done in the tag. They are being done as fast as possible unless sleeping has been selected in the settings. This is purely just for the speed at which the data is output from the anchor. One other thing that is very special is saving a log. So if I click this to disable the data burst, you'll notice 1, 2, 3, 6, and 9. 9 is the actual timestamp in milliseconds. So if you turn on all four of these features plus number 9, the timestamp, and then click Log to File, what it's going to do is going to log all that data to this file that you select. Now I'm going to enable it. And then you could turn this on and off as needed. And it's going to keep appending more and more information to that text file. Once you're finished, you could actually import that text file into something like Excel and then sort, filter, and do any kind of calculations that you need to do. Now I'm going to disconnect from the anchor, and I'm going to connect to the tag to show you one extra feature. Notice at the bottom it says connected to the tag. Also notice the data coming out of the tag is different than what was coming out of the anchor. The thing that I didn't cover with the anchor was this feature 1-point calibration. This is only really valid if you have a 5 or 6 anchor system. What this allows you to do is to do a 1-point quick calibration so that all the Z height readings for the different anchors all come out to be the same. So what you would do is you'd set up your system of anchors, say 1, 2, and 3 around the perimeter, and then 4, 5, and 6 below anchors 1, 2, and 3, and then stand with the tag with a good view of all the anchors, and click this button that says Auto Calculate Slopes. And what that's going to do is it's going to calculate the slope and offsets for all the different anchors so that all the Z heights from all the anchors are all calculated the same. This other button here, Write to Device, is just if you want to reset everything back to say 10,000, 10,000, 10,000. Because when you click the Auto Calculate Slopes, it automatically calculates the slope and saves it. This Write to Device is only needed if you actually want to manually change these values. And of course you can read from device to see what they're currently set at. The last feature, Programming, allows you to change firmware. And the way you do that is you browse to locate the firmware version that you currently want to upload to your device. And we're already connected to the tag, so when you click this button, it's going to turn or set the tag into bootloader mode and get it ready for firmware. The instructions are also provided here, but in general, once the device is in bootloader mode, you click Update and it'll go through the process of saving the firmware to the device. This should take about 15 seconds. If you have any problem while upgrading the firmware, just turn the power off and back on the device to start over. It won't hurt it. And that is about all the things I'm going to cover. So I will disconnect now.